Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. I'm your host, Sarah Parker, and today we have a different type of episode. Matt and I, I was just doing food prep, and it's obviously Valentine's Day today, guys, and we were talking like we normally do, having just random conversations about gear use, sex, female, male, bodybuilding, and I was like, should we record a podcast? Should we just jump on and record a podcast? So let's welcome the Oracle,
Hello.
Matt James.
Hi.
So if you're on YouTube, wait, we decided to put some props. Oh, a little one.
Well, actually, technically, that's a harpoon.
So as promised, we're going to talk about what I just said, the conversation around gear use in male and female bodybuilding. Matt's just opening a pin here. And, part of the mission for the Beyond Condition podcast is to actually talk about the things that people maybe won't. And why do I do that, right? Like, here's the thing, and I run this by Matt a lot. We are in a world where, and this is not just bodybuilding, right? Like, steroid use is a thing across the world, but it's also a thing that carries a stigma. And I always try and preface episodes, guys. If you listen, you'll understand my vibe with I'm never sitting here advocating steroid use. However, it is a thing. So unless people talk about it in a educational way, and sometimes in, entertainment purposes, it's I just feel like, anything that you don't talk about, it makes it an elephant in a room, but it's still done. And then you're going to get potential for, people using steroids and not knowing anything about them. People having side effects or effects from steroids and not knowing what's happening. All of these things to increase awareness is part of my mission through the podcast. And as I say, I run a lot by Matt, and I'm like, does this come across in the right way? Does this sound okay? And maybe this is a good opportunity for you, Matt, to explain sort of when I say to you, we spoke about this. What do you think? Because you used to listen to the podcast before we were a couple.
Yep.
From a consumer standpoint, obviously you listen to podcasts like Think Big is probably your go-to for, actual education around steroid use.
hmm
From a consumer standpoint, for me to make my mission clear and not, as I say, sit here going, oh yeah, everyone shakes steroids. How do you feel the podcast is being able to do that so I stay within my lane, if you know what I mean?
I think a large degree of it is bringing awareness to the things that are happening within the podcast because you're always, and this is the conversation that's had back and forth between people talking about steroid use and people promoting steroid use. And there's a very intricate line because anything that is put out there is open to interpretation. Just like when we talk about this with clients, whenever you have a communication with someone, depending on the mood, their energy, how they have perceived information, they can take it in a completely different manner as to what it's intended. And when it comes to steroid use, there's a very big difference between advocating use and promoting it. However, that can be subjective because people can take information that is given without the incentive behind it, and they can take that as gospel
Mm.
to then go, that's what I need to do. Because some people are looking for information and education, and some people are looking for validation.
Yeah, yeah,
And therefore, if you touch on even a fraction of what some people think is enough of a cue for them to go, cool, that's what I'm going to do, then they will go and do that. And the point with that is you can't stop everybody from not making a truly informed decision when you're giving out information or sharing anecdote. But as a collective group of people, if no one was to share anything, if no one was to really go and delve into the deeper aspects of steroid use, so like the virilization that can happen with females, the negative health consequences that can come with both male and females, then where are you getting your information from?
Mm.
And now we're in the age of ChatGPT and people formulating conversations with that, which can only give facts as to what the prompt of the question is given,
What you
but
feed
with
it.
no actual emotion or anything behind that.
Mm.
So I think when you're putting your things across from a podcast, and this is what you do very well, is you think about the listener. But obviously, the listener is a broad term, and therefore you'll never fall into that trap of promoting stuff. But you can also share people's stories who are advocates of those things, but that's merely sharing a story.
Mm.
And again, it's a constant balancing of these things. And back when I started lifting, you know one or two people who do steroids, and that would be it. And then the rest of the time, no one else really. People knew names of stuff, but
Oops.
yeah, it was literally oh, that guy does steroids, and then you'd hear names of things, but you didn't actually know what they were. I got given a list of compounds once, and I was like, I don't know what any of these things are.
Mm.
Whereas now you'll have a conversation with someone who doesn't even look like they train, and they're like, I'm taking this, 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 and they speak about it openly and freely in the gym. But the people who were on those things previously would just talk about training and their food and give you knowledge and anecdote around what they're doing and how they're utilizing this, how they've been in the gym for X amount of years and pursuing this and they compete and do all these other various different things. Now people talk about drugs
I like
more
that.
than they'll readily talk to you about their diet.
Really, really nice because that's something, as you know, I try and delve into. And here's the thing, right? Like, obviously, we're sitting here with some little props here. Matt's got his Valentine's Christmas hat on
It's
with
my love hat.
pins, pins poking out of it. If you're listening on YouTube, but you raise a very valid point here. It's almost like a measuring dick contest, and and this is the thing. I don't ever want to come across in any other way than like why is it that you walk into the gym and it's like, I can be training and I can hear people saying, yeah, well, I took that, and then the mate's like, oh yeah, I took more than, and it's like I say, a dick measuring contest. And I
Mm.
think, where has this sort of come from? Where has this era come from? Of, like you say, it used to be, and this is the thing with the natural versus assisted that we can see as such, and I say that quote unquote. It's like sometimes you wouldn't even really need to ask a question if someone's assisted because they'd be so infused by the nutrition. They'd be so infused by the training. You'd see them training and think, well, they're earning that physique, right? Like you could make an assumption and go, Jesus Christ, that person's training their ass off. You wouldn't care if they were assisted or not
No.
because they're living and breathing bodybuilding, and they're also not chatting around the gym and telling everyone what their cycle is. And this is the thing, it's this clickbait era as well, isn't it? Like you say, someone can click on something and they look at, I want to take X compound. Someone talks about it, and straight away it's that tick in their mind and the validation to go, well, that person uses it, so I will use it.
Mm.
So I should be okay because they're okay.
Well, the initial, like, if we think back to when steroids were, because you can track back on social media or YouTube, the big people that stand out, Rich Piana spoke and vocalized about steroid use,
Mm,
and then obviously you got Boston Lloyd.
yeah,
Boston Lloyd was certainly in my mind the first person. There were other people that spoke about it, but all of the people who were taking it and using it, all of their brand supplement sponsors and everyone else, as soon as there was a whiff of steroids, they get taken away. So they were the first two people. Now, those pieces of content that came out, Boston Lloyd did his transformation, and then I think it was a two and a bit hour YouTube going through all of the compounds and everything else.
yeah,
Now, that's the first kind of thing that was like, I can achieve this in this short amount of time if I take all of these things. And then that blew up because then it became a brand thing. He made it into a marketing thing. And that's someone who is, at that point, really almost promoting those aspects there
that's
because
the difficulty, isn't it?
you're saying, and you can take this from the Retta catastrophe that's going on now, and I'll call it that because the amount of people who I speak to are on it who don't in my personal opinion, need to be on it. If you promise someone something, you'll shut your appetite off.
Yeah,
What's the biggest thing people struggle with when it's dieting? Hunger.
yeah,
But then if you say in 12 months you can look like this, if you take all of this, sweet, cool. That's amazing.
yeah.
Because if you said you take this pill and in a year's time you'll be a millionaire, cool, in the small print, but you'll die in 5 years, a lot of people would still take it
Hmm.
because they'll be like, well, that's not me. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen in that because you can't imagine that
Your
that's
future
going to be
person.
you.
Mm.
But in those initial stages, in those initial years, those were the only people that I knew of that would talk about those things. And
And
then
of
you'd,
course, Tony.
yeah, and Tony would do those experiments, and that was in that kind of similar era. But again, there was a separation between you'd see these like big people doing these experiments on themselves or amongst each other. You'd see Rich, and it was so far away from, in my mind, um, I'm not going to get to that point. Like this guy's
He
his
was
own
bursting his
unique
steam.
freak. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But now, because it's more normal,
Mm.
because I could tell you 100 people in our gym, we would, that last gym that we trained at, there were two people in separate rooms talking about compounds, and we were there for maybe an hour and a bit,
Mm.
and that was it.
I sit in the cafe sometimes and it yeah, it sort of blows my mind with, people are sitting having a coffee and they're saying, oh, as you sip your coffee, oh, I'm thinking of running this and my mate ran this and this is what I and the reason I say it blows my mind is because when we track back to our origins, as it were, like it wasn't readily available to like talk about it like it's just going down the pick and mix shop,
Mm.
right? Like it was not spoken about, and that's where you have that like, and what we started the episode with, it's like that the two worlds of, is it better to have that education because of course we're talking about effects, we're talking about what can actually happen, as you mentioned, viralization, etc. Is it better that no one talks about it because then it minimizes how many people might use it and get negative consequences? What's the, and I guess the podcast is trying to be in that middle ground of like talking about personal anecdote, and it's always needed to be geared around that gear. Excuse the pun, because everyone's such a unique response. But then this is what I find in this era, as it were. It's such a clickbait. How many followers? This, that, and the other. Like the subjects I talk about, sometimes I think, I really wish that this could be filtered into the bodybuilding world more so to actually help people understand. But then you'll get someone with 1.5 million followers pissing around in the gym, making memes and offering no education at all. And reels pop off, content pops off, which, and I can't get frustrated by that. Cool, cool for that person if that's what they want to do. But there doesn't seem to be that like that yearning for education that there was maybe years ago. But this is where I see the podcast coming through and people listening of maybe we can make that cycle come back a little bit. Because I see in the bodybuilding space as well, there is, almost frustrations and people thinking like, what the hell's happened to bodybuilding? Maybe there's some of that then there could be a cycle like clothing, right?
Mm.
People wear stuff that people wore in the 80s. Maybe it's gonna, if I can keep my principles there, but there's no getting away from how commercialized gear use is now, and you've got so much in the space of fake natties. You got people that say, "Oh yeah, I just run TRT," but they've done 20 years of cycles to get them that physique. Then they go to TRT. They don't disclose the cycles. They say, "No, no, no, you don't need much gear." Okay, so what about all the gear cycles that you've run then? Like these are just easy examples that you wouldn't even really be aware of unless you're having conversations in the space, and this is why I bring it to the podcast. Because how would you even know about these things, right? Like, I didn't know about these things.
And that's the difficulty. And we also have to take into consideration there's a lot more people in the gym, going to gyms now. So, yeah, and I know when you speak about it more, and we also speak to more people, that there are older people who've been doing it for a long period of time, but they obviously didn't talk about it.
Mm.
So then, are there more people doing it, or are there simply more people talking about it? And the percentage of people that have gone into the gyms, what we do know as a fact is there simply wasn't the availability from a media perspective
Mm.
because there wasn't Instagram, there was MySpace, and Tom wasn't on Gear, so everyone was friends with Tom, and
The MySpace, yeah.
he wasn't massive, but that was the only way, and the only way outside of that was the forums. That's where people spoke about stuff. But I know, having spoken to people about being on the forums, if you asked a stupid question,
Yeah,
you got ridiculed out of
absolutely.
those places. So you were fearful to ask questions. But now you don't need to ask anyone because you can literally go, Trent, this, that. Put it into Instagram, put it into TikTok if that's your vibe, or put it into YouTube, and you can
ChatGPT.
go and find it. And now you have this.
What do you think of this cycle? I mean,
And that's where there is 100% because we'll never know the numbers as to like if you percentaged it out and said the amount of people who've increased going to the gym now versus used now. But what you can say absolutely is the ability to gain some words, let's not call it information, or knowledge is so easy. And inside 5 minutes, you can absorb so much. And just again, when we go back to if someone's just looking for validation,
mm,
if you're trying to deliver education and they want validation, as soon as they hear the education part, they swipe and
yeah.
you swipe and swipe and swipe. And everyone who is now listening to this who has some form of social media will be able to attest that if you start searching for something different, your algorithm changes within minutes now, as opposed to before it would take a few days, a week for it to gather. It's getting faster and faster. And then if you're in a perpetual cycle of just getting this hook style
Mm,
information, guidance, whatever you're taking as gospel, that's all you'll see.
yeah.
And so you have to be able to break that cycle then to then take yourself out of that. And that goes for everything. And then that's where confirmation bias comes in. And you see that in training, you see that in nutrition, you see, and we are very tribal in the sense of people like groups of people and they resonate with other people. And that's where it becomes a very, very difficult thing to, put out and promote as knowledge because it can be taken in very, very different ways.
Mm,
But it's still an important thing to talk about because it's very much like if there's so many people doing these short, sharp, again, if it's for entertainment, if it's for all these other purposes, then there needs to be some other force that's balancing everything else out for the people who are actually looking for knowledge and for the people who end up getting burnt by following this set path
yeah.
and then want a way out. Because some people then feel trapped to not be able to ask someone. They won't want to go to the doctor. They won't want to seek out advice from other people. So they'll probably try and sort it themselves. And if no one's putting out that good quality information, where do those people go?
And would you say that this is
Yeah,
where I come in? And this is
100%. Because you also attract like-minded people who are going to, and yeah, you'll have Tony on, right? Like
Tony Huge.
obviously Tony Huge. So
Tony
there's
to the
there's
huge.
Tony Huge, and he is his own character. He is his own. He is that person. But then the other people that you bring on the podcast, again, you talk about things that other people won't. You share things that other people won't, and in the right way. And the right way being from a point of that person's experience, that person's knowledge, the knowledge that you've gained and gathered over time and rebalancing perspectives during the podcast that you put out. It's not like this
Biased.
person loves doing this or this person believes this, so we're just going to go all in on this for an hour and a half.
Mm,
There's going to be questions to challenge that narrative, to explore that narrative, and to like deliver whatever the topic is that you're coming together to kind of talk about.
mm,
And that's the important thing because as a podcast host, you can't really afford to be biased on your own, even on your own beliefs. And everyone's got their own beliefs, whether you say that you have or you haven't. But you can absolutely, when you're being self-aware enough, not allow yourself to bleed into biases. If you like, you know, female jacked muscular women and
I
you
do.
support that, yeah, but then there's also the balancing of what does that mean for you? So you're
Yeah.
not just promoting that every female who has an inkling to go in and get as jacked and juicy as possible goes and does so. It's, yes, this is what you can do. It's amazing, and I really like that and I enjoy that. But these are the thought processes that you'll have to go and explore.
Mm,
And these are the people who've experienced that, and this is what they feel.
mm,
And therefore, when you are aware of that, it's like, right, so this is someone who's done it, who's experienced it, who's felt it, who feels it now, and this is what they're dealing with on the other side.
mm,
And then when you get those people who are willing to listen to that, again, not just the people who go, right, Sarah loves jacked and juicy women, I love jacked and juicy women, I'm going to be one no matter what, and then run away with it, they're always going to do that. But the people who are actually there for the knowledge will go, okay, cool, that's what I like. That's what I want to do. But with this information, maybe that's as far as I'm going to take it. And that's the
mm.
same with gear use. It's the same with,
All of it.
bodybuilding. Like
Yeah.
you speak about it in terms of, people in relationships and if it's impacting and affecting that. And, because it's a big time commitment and doing all of those things.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be, even though you love bodybuilding, you're bodybuilding through and through, you have to give those perspectives. Otherwise, you're just funneling everyone into one specific area. And that's the difficulty that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's almost where the funnel of social media comes in, where it's like a lot of people would just put out their biases. This is why I try and say, when we are putting together content, when I'm doing a podcast episode, and I've never really spoken about this, but I guess guys, you listening, if you think for a moment there where I'm interviewing a guest or like my my brain is literally going, right, okay, so what's the next question? How can I get the best out of this guest to bring to this person or this person or this? And there's so many of you that listen, so many of you in different scenarios that it's this and opening that perspective to go, okay, so what if this person struggles with this or this, and how can I actually, as well with guests, and I get compliments from the listeners and yourself to say, like, I can draw things out of guests that probably wouldn't have let that information out into the ether, and it's really important to me to keep doing that because, as you sort of outlined, and really the mission is to offer a safe space, right? Like, no matter what your background is, your age, your gender, you're welcome here because it's not about the dick measuring competition. I just do not have time for it, guys, as you know. And a lot of my listeners, I feel like you guys are the type of people that are attracted to that vibe of like, a lot of us have been through enough shit in life. Like, if we go down the assisted route, if we pursue bodybuilding, we're doing different things to normal people. But I can almost guarantee that a lot of you listening are doing this for you, right? Like it's not I'm assisted and I'm going to walk around and tell everyone. I don't tend to attract that type of vibe from, the listeners I speak to, etc. And this is where, I've always got that within me with like, I'm assisted and it's like I've done that for my own reasons. If someone asks me about gear, I'll have a conversation, but you're not gonna get that like gimmicky conversation from me and this like blowing smoke and all of that weird shit that it turns into almost like a school playground exchange. And this is where maturity in decisions can be compromised, right? Like the decisions we can make to go assisted, and we don't even go to the gym that often. Stuff like that. It's like, where's the level of maturity? But we are in this era, so it's like, what do we do about that? And you touched on relationships, which is something we could talk about because that's part of our conversation. Obviously, when I was in the kitchen of, the male and female side of things, and when you're actually on gear, what that feels like. And I've touched on it in episodes, but again, it's like you're being advised to take XYZ compound And I'm not speaking for anyone or everyone, or I'm talking from, a potential point of view that this could come about. I'm not gonna, go into the names or coaches or whatever, but when you're recommended to take a substance, is there a level of this is what you could feel like this is the potential effects? Because I know you come home from the gym and you've spoken to a plethora of different people and they've got no idea. And they're like, yeah, I know, but I want to get jacked. And it's like, and this is why I want to keep, talking about it. And it's not to make the Beyond Condition podcast. Let's just talk about steroids. It is absolutely not that. And, you know, anyone that thinks that or what have you, I take that as almost a bit of a personal attack. And I don't need to get, I don't need to get aggy about it. But, that would be very character detrimental to me because it's not about that at all. It's actually almost the complete opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, when people go into and down the route of steroid use, is they think it's just that. They think you're either taking steroids or you're not, and that's it. So you
Mm.
either take a tablet or take an injection and you're not. And when someone delves into like if they think that it's just about steroids, it's because it's such a diverse topic and a topic that contains so many fragmental points because it's not just a case of you take this and then your hormone panel changes. It's a you take this and your mood can change. Your training performance then changes in terms of what you're able to do, and therefore the co-considerations there. Your nutritional choices can
It's
also change when everything else that you're doing, and you can literally keep on going.
your
So,
sex life.
yeah,
We have a we have a balloon here
don't
for
ask what the
YouTube
balloon's
listeners.
for. The balloon is for some kinky shit. So,
You'd be stuff like that as well, isn't it?
yeah, and that's the thing when you're talking about this, it's so many diverse topics, and then you're talking about all of the various different compounds and how they impact and intervene in terms of how people. So when you're referencing the people I speak to, go, I take this and I become jacked. Okay,
And you're looking
cool.
at them
So
like,
that's it. Then it's just a one to one. So as much as you can take, or however much you take, and then you just become jacked. And I'll give you an anecdote from a professional perspective, because my client won't mind me talking about this, that one of my clients said to me he's going to go on gear. And I said, well, your training and your nutrition and everything that you're doing and a lifestyle factor is not in a position where you're going to benefit from it effectively. So my advice is absolutely not. Do not do it. I'm not going to support you doing it because it's literally going to amplify all of the negatives and your positives are going to be very, very small. And we're working on building everything in place. And if it gets to the point where you can do it
and everything's in place
and
and
everything's in place,
solidified.
then that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. He went on to do it. I'm still coaching him, still doing the training, the nutrition side of things. And his results were lackluster at best. He didn't feel that great. He didn't notice that much of a big change, and the dose wasn't astronomical, but it was sufficient enough to put him in a very beneficial superphysiological place, in
If,
theory.
yeah.
And he was surprised and shocked when those things didn't manifest. And his
Wait, you have to do the bodybuilding stuff as well.
and his thought process
Wait,
was,
wait, wait. Can you confirm that? Hello?
I can confirm, hang on, I can confirm that it's true.
That you would use gear as
Hang on.
an enhancement. Consequently, it's called the assisted route. So you assist what you're already doing. Wow.
What I mean to say is your performance is enhanced. And if your performance is a 10%, it will be enhanced to a 10.5% or 11 at a push. And that's exactly what happened. And as a result, he came off said substances and then decided to go actually and do the work that he needed to do as we were going to do that. And that is one, admittedly, story of doing that, but there are also multiple different clients that I have and do work with who are on much less gear than they were previously, and they do much more of the other things that they should have been doing anyway, and they get a better result and thus get a better physique. And this is the thing. if you only talk about steroids for a podcast here or there, how are you ever going to cover all of the relative information? Because you're not.
There's a reason why I'm gonna marry this man. This is the thing, right? Like, it's and it's I feel if you're into bodybuilding, if we were going to listen to podcasts like you listen to Think Big, it's being part of a conversation. It's just listening to a story's personal anecdote. And and this is what I loved about the Hella and Romana roundtable. If you're in the assisted realms, you've made this decision, having a little bit of banter around it, right? Like bodybuilding is a hard discipline. And then we can just take that edge off a little bit. But then that's that. Like, if someone's opinion was, well, it's three women sitting there having a laugh about steroid use, that's a reflection of them, right? Like, I have to be able to be true to the podcast and always then veer the podcast in certain directions. Like when I talk about, our sex life or we've spoken about it on podcasts we've done together, it's like, again, you could be like, well, you shouldn't really talk about those things. But it's not the intricate details. It's more like, okay, so how do we feel if we're on cycle? How does it feel with body image issues? How does it feel when one of you's going through X, Y, or Z? Like, I don't need to hold myself back because of preconceived, well, that person in the corner of the globe might think, well, she's spoken about sex and steroids on one podcast episode. What is she doing? Is she okay?
She's absolutely fine.
Now on the live YouTube and obviously those listening on the podcast and open my Valentine's Day present. What's this going to lead into? From my monk. Well, that is very appropriate. Jim Wanker. Wait, when you got the camera and you have to try and. There we go. Hello, Jim Wanker. I've got a cup saying Jim Wanker on it. Wanker, the wanker.
Well, we are talking about sex, so
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about what is it? You and me. Is that it?
that is it.
Let's have a little deep dive on the sexual side of things before we wrap up this crazy little wild episode. So, of course, Matt and I are well partners. our,
Fuck's
our
sake.
friend Josh messaged me saying, "Can you ask your wonderful partner to read his message and message me back?" And I was like, "Hey up, who's my bloody partner? Are we cowboys?" Hello, partner.
Easy partner.
Hello,
And then we
partner.
decided we're setting up a law firm. I'm going to be put
Partners.
James and Parker.
James and Parker.
James and Parkers.
James and Parker's. So my partner. Let's just deep dive on it, right? So female versus male, how do we feel on cycle? Is it the same? We've never done this sort of hash it out. How do we feel on cycle? So I've described before, and as I mentioned, the Hella and Romana podcast, it feels like you are, well, Hella actually said, hunting cock. It's something that I feel is worth talking about from a female perspective because it can actually be quite overwhelming. And then we'll obviously go into the male perspective. But when I first went on cycle and feeling that desire to have sex was because I'm a one person woman. But obviously the conversations I have and the stories I hear, I could see how people start to do the things you hear in the bodybuilding space. So whether it's jumping on OnlyFans and having a wank or whatever, or you know, whether it goes as far as cheating or any of these things. Matt and I are not on that vibe. Um, but it raises questions as to like if you didn't expect that, like you know what I mean? Like,
So for you, the first time that you took steroids,
yeah.
when did you notice that feeling? And like going back to the question of being prepared for that,
Mm,
was it something you were aware of before you
no,
took it?
no.
Okay.
4 to 6 days.
Yeah.
I was just like you feel this like I'm this strong independent woman, which you feel anyway as a bodybuilder. Obviously, ladies listening, we are strong independent women, but this translates into the training performance, right? So you get to the gym and you're like, I'm gonna fucking have it. But there's this like, and it's before meeting you, as you know, and I've said this on the podcast, I wasn't sexually motivated, as it were. It wasn't like it was just a thing that happened between a male and female, like, and then experiencing it with someone that I actually want to have sex with, it was like, I don't like, do I, is he gonna think there's something different here? Like, what are we doing here? This is weird. But then, obviously, if you plow into it, and I mean,
Unintended.
yeah, becomes. Why are you looking at me all horny? No, but it like, I mean, if you're both on the same page,
Hmm.
no joke, it's quite, yeah,
Quite.
earth-shattering. But I guess if someone, the other partner's not on cycle, I mean, I'd imagine most guys would like it if their female was like, get the fuck on that bed.
Yeah.
We're doing this, right? Then we've got the other side of it. If a male was feeling that way towards a female, depending on societal norms, right? Like that's the difficulty again. And I spoke about this on the body image podcast that goes live on Wednesday. I can't be in everyone's scenario where your partner might like you lean, your partner might like you big, your partner might like you somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Again, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because as I said it there, societal norms would assume that, well, if a female wants to pounce on you and say, get on the fucking bed, we're having sex, the man would be happy about that. If a man did that, with the
Mm.
societal past and what could that be taken in a different way? You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's tricky territory.
And with your different cycles that you've done, as obviously you've gone through Anavar,
Primo.
Primo, Mast, differences. Obviously, you've done them through different portions
Yeah,
of
that's
your.
it's phase related for me.
So,
When you're fed, when you're in off season,
fed and fucking,
fed and
or
fucking. When you're in a
starving and
prep,
celibate.
you feel a little bit more well-being. That's about it. And obviously you have the physique outcome.
Mm.
Off season though, it's like it is as well, and particularly coming from the background I have, as I've sort of said there, like I wasn't one to sort of seek out sex. I wasn't, I haven't slept with that many people in my life. I've had one night stand. Like I've never done online dating and all of that stuff. So it's not a driver for me.
You've never done OnlyFans.
But no, I have not. OnlyFans. Um,
Link in bio.
but it's like that overbearing. If I hadn't have met you, I don't know what that would have bloody felt like.
You'd be humping the weight stack.
No, but in all seriousness, if you didn't think about how that could feel, and you don't hear about it in the female space. Well, I certainly don't. Where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, the woman cheated on the man, the woman went off and fucked someone else because she was on X compound.
Mm.
What you ordinarily hear, let's face it, guys, the guy did Tren, fucked his neighbour. I'm not saying that, flippantly with no concern to the people that it's happened to, but you hear this a lot.
Well, he took trend and he became gay.
The preferences came
So
out.
his neighbour was called Phil, not Phyllis.
But you notice the difference on cycle, don't you? And you're gonna come back over to the dark side soon, are you, my cheek?
Yes, yes. Like I have a high sex drive anyway, in terms of like just regularly. That was always the case. That was a gift that well, would you like to say where I produced that gift?
So Matt did get me a gift, as I say, right? So I've spoken about this on episodes, and just to have a bit of a light-hearted part to this, guys, in regards to body image. Matt has absolutely helped me embrace my body image more because, you know, I wouldn't be one to wear outfits as I've got in my hand. I wouldn't be one to really explore things like that because I just didn't feel very comfortable. Sex wasn't a thing, as I said. But anyway, Matt has helped me embrace the darker side. So we were in Bill's, the restaurant, and he said, "Here's a gift."
No, we did a gift each, didn't we?
Yeah, and you
We
gave it.
selected
It
one.
was
No,
like,
you picked that one out of
yeah,
out
and it
of.
was wrapped up this small.
It's quite a small item of clothing, which is ideal. It
And
wasn't wrapped like that. It was actually wrapped.
I opened it in the restaurant, and I was like,
I was absolutely loving life at this point.
"I go to the toilet." So I went to the toilet and I looked at it, and I was like, "What the hell is this? What the hell is this? This contraption." Whoa. YouTubers, you can see the contraption.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go to the YouTube for that one. It's worth it.
But again, this is what I've learnt as well. Sure, there's going to be opinions, right? People will think, say, whatever, certain things. But if you have sexual desires, if you have a partner and you guys are exploring things, if you guys are on or off cycle, like sex feels good, right? Like, again, why should it be an elephant in the room? Like, oh God. Me and Marna talk about it, right? Like her and Dan having things where they break beds and shit. Like, there needs to be an element in life sometimes where people can just listen along and actually talk about stuff because like I never would have thought I'd wear an outfit or, experiment more. But then you find the right person and you want to and you're able to. I spoke about this with Tony Huge. Sometimes I will dominate, sometimes you will dominate. And he was like, oh, that sounds good. In the mind of Tony Huge. But it's like it's just sex guys. Like, and it's just talking about it in a conversation as people are listening to this podcast, right? Like a lot of people have sex, a lot of people do steroids, people eat, people drink, people fart. What if these things happen?
Yeah, and being aware about those things and clearly communicating them is obviously one of the things that we've done
Hmm.
and we continue to do and speak openly about how we feel. Then we decide to do a podcast about it. But the thing is, like, when you do find the right person and you understand these different phases and you understand how someone's going to feel. So, like, I know that when you go into a diet and it's on that, it changes.
Yeah.
And I know that on the opposite, when you're eating, you put drugs in, about 5, 6 days in, I'm wearing the outfit. I've got I've got a candle in my mouth and I've just pinned a load of gear and I'm ready. Like, look at that. I can't even get my nipples in there. My chest's too big. Wait.
So wait, we were talking about when you will be coming back over to the dark side. Are you going to document this on social media?
Yes, I am. I will be talking about it.
Have you thought
And
about if you will fit an increase in libido?
yeah, so I was saying, right, that like I am.
Where's my? It's doing a flex.
I thought you were doing something else. Um, yes, my libido has always been quite high. So that has been a thing. But when
Are you
I
concerned?
am I concerned, what about it being high or
Yeah,
about when I
higher
go
when you go back on cycle.
only for your adductors? Like that's the only thing that I'm
There's
concerned
some
about.
terrain in there.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. That and yeah, the bed maybe. Um, but it, as we say, when you go into the gym, like the pumps are like insane. The lifts just skyrocket. And then from like a sexual side of stuff, that increases tenfold.
It's
And for
quite
me,
hard to.
it's yeah, difficult to concentrate on much else, especially when you walk around naked. Just like, well,
I'm an actress by trade.
yeah, we follow suit on that. as per our recent naked sunbathing, but that's tales for another
Another
podcast.
podcast.
But it would be an issue, like if someone else didn't understand that to the same,
Yeah.
because well, there'd be friction burns and stuff, and like items of clothing and that, because you stand still long enough, like
But
that's
can
happening.
you associate to males that would wander?
Yeah, because obviously in my past that has been,
Mm.
you know,
So if this was your past and you're on cycle, it probably would have been that on steroids.
that on steroids. But that's the point, isn't it?
It's a
It's when
risky
it's when you
move if
when
you.
when you find that right person. Like I said to you, it was like a switch. It was just like, okay, I found my person. That's it.
I love you.
Yeah. And then when going on gear and experiencing that, and obviously like going down the route of like trend, that changed a lot. But like just experiencing those higher levels, that desire is there. And the thing is, if your other person is not on that same wave of you, you're not getting that attention. You're not getting those
Mm,
needs fulfilled, as
yeah.
it were.
It's
Because again, it becomes a lot more of a primal thing, right? There's a reason that, like, testosterone, it's the androgenic anabolic compound that gives you that fight, fuck,
mm,
whatever.
mm,
Like, there's a reason that people who are, you know, more aggressive without it become more aggressive with it.
mm,
The people who have a high sex drive and then want to have sex, you give them some gear, chances are they're going to want to do that more.
mm.
If there's not an output or an outlet for that, and the other person doesn't understand what's going on, because let's face it, a lot of guys do it in secret. A
Yeah.
lot of guys don't tell their
Maybe
misses, they
females
don't
also.
tell their partners. Yeah, probably. But then how are you going to do that? But on the other way around, if you're a female doing it and you're not telling your partner, and all of a sudden you're horny as fuck and you like that person, he's not going to be bothered about if you want to have sex more. Like, that's going to be a cool vibe, unless he doesn't like you, in which case that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But on the other way around, like you said, if you've got someone who's they're not really having sex much, a guy goes on and then it's like,
Suddenly,
2, 3, 4 times a day,
yeah.
who wants to have
Which
sex,
is,
which
yeah.
is, yeah, or like hours and hours at a time, which is absolutely, viable.
I do think if you're on cycle and you found the right person, that you just fucking tunnel vision that person.
Is that a pun?
What do you mean?
Tunnel vision.
No, no, it hyper fixates you on the person.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah.
fucking look at anyone else.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Like
it's you're
that's not
just
my vibe anyway, but it's never made me feel any
no, if anything, it just makes me want to wake you up,
that's
and I'm like, but asleep.
do me up, wake me up. I
Yeah,
thought you said weigh me up. I was gonna say, what are you waiting for me for?
for the sex swing.
Wait, she's off season now.
Hey, if he doesn't do DIY, why is he putting nuts and bolts in the wall?
No, but it like genuinely, yeah. If anything, it makes me think, oh, I want to get home to mum, Matt. You know what I mean? Hmm. Explorations, guys. Well, this is what we were talking about when I was doing some food prep. I've done the food prep. Are we going to show anything else? Oh, Matt got me some Gillian.
In the name of off season, plus
Wow.
you're on cycle at the moment as well, so that's
Yeah. Chocolates associated.
it says pull here,
Oh.
but don't. Oh,
No. Woo! We keep seeing these, don't we? And was it a client of yours that sunk a whole box of these?
yeah, one of my clients had a whole caboodle. Oh, there's a knife here.
We could use the pin.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of his clients had a whole thing of Gillian, and I was like, okay, I think that's pushing. Wow, this is very posh. Wow, guys, it's got its own.
oh yeah,
It's like my supplements for the week.
yeah.
Got a
One of
month's worth of
these,
supplements here.
one of
Wow.
these plus one anavar a day equals.
Big nipples all the way.
Oh, Nipples are funny, aren't
Well,
they?
guys,
They are though, aren't they?
especially if you get gyno.
Well, yeah, they're really big nipples. And that story we heard the other day,
What story?
I was just looking at your nipples, about the black milk coming out of the nipples.
Yeah, on gear.
Yeah, so guys, if you're listening and you're not fearful around steroids, black milky nipples, how about that?
And guys, I will look forward to speaking to you next time.
And hearing your thoughts on this episode and
Goodbye.
what kind of outfits you've been bought in Bills. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey!